When you walk into Montreal for the first time, there's a moment that almost everyone experiences, whether they expect it or not. You slow down. You look around. You stop. There is something about the city that immediately commands attention, not in a loud or aggressive way, but in a quiet, confident one. Montreal doesn't rush to impress you. It doesn't need to. Its streets, buildings, and neighborhoods carry a weight that can be felt without being explained. This is a city shaped by centuries of ambition, struggle, creativity, and survival, and that history is embedded into the very stone beneath your feet. Montreal reminds you of the power of architecture and urban design to inspire, to ground, and to tell stories without words. At the heart of Old Montreal lies Place d'Armes, one of the city's most historically significant squares. For centuries, this space has served as a gathering point for public life. In the 1600s, French colonial forces and indigenous peoples shaped the early destiny of this land. Later, British rule transformed the square into a place of governance, military presence, and commerce. Public announcements were made here. Markets were held. Conflicts unfolded. Decisions were announced that would shape the future of the city and the province beyond it. Today, tourists gather with cameras, admiring the surrounding architecture, unaware that they are standing on ground that has witnessed wars, power struggles, and the birth of a metropolis. The square may feel peaceful now, but the echoes of history are still there. Old Montreal itself feels like a preserved fragment of another world. Narrow cobblestone streets wind between stone buildings that predate most of North America's major cities. These structures were built to last, not just physically, but symbolically. They represent permanence in a land that was once uncertain and contested. The architecture speaks of French colonial ambition, European craftsmanship, and a determination to establish roots in an unfamiliar environment. Walking these streets feels different from walking anywhere else in Canada. There is a density of memory here, a sense that time has layered itself rather than erased what came before. Just beyond Old Montreal lies the Old Port, a space that tells a very different story of transformation. For much of the 20th century, this waterfront was an industrial zone, dominated by warehouses, shipping infrastructure, and decaying facilities. As global shipping patterns changed and industry declined, the port fell into disuse. It became a neglected edge of the city, disconnected from daily life. But Montreal refused to abandon it. Over the last few decades, the Old Port has been reimagined and reclaimed as a public space, transforming from industrial wasteland into one of the city's most vibrant destinations. Today, the Old Port is alive in every season. In the summer, it becomes a playground for the city. People walk, bike, rollerblade, and gather along the water's edge. There are outdoor movie screens, urban beaches, zip lines, and volleyball courts. Families picnic. Couples stroll. Musicians perform. The St. Lawrence River, once viewed primarily as a commercial artery, is now embraced as a place of leisure and connection. In winter, the port transforms again, hosting skating rinks and seasonal events that draw people outdoors despite the cold. This ability to reinvent spaces without erasing their history is one of Montreal's defining traits. Standing at the edge of the Old Port is the Clock Tower, built in 1922 as a memorial to sailors who lost their lives during the First World War. It is a quiet monument, not overly grand, but deeply symbolic. It reminds the city of its maritime roots and the sacrifices made by those who worked on the river and at sea. The tower watches over a city that has always been shaped by movement, of goods, of people, of ideas. Montreal exists because of the river, and its relationship with water continues to define its identity. If there is one force that truly shapes Montrealers, it is winter. Winters here are not mild inconveniences. They are long, relentless, and physically demanding. For months, temperatures remain below freezing. Snowstorms bury streets and sidewalks. Ice coats everything. The city's snow removal operation is one of the largest and most complex in the world, with fleets of trucks working day and night to keep the city functional. Winter is not something Montrealers romanticize. They complain about it constantly. And yet, they endure it with a kind of stubborn pride. Despite the harsh conditions, Montrealers refuse to let winter stop life entirely. They adapt. They dress for it, layering heavy coats, boots, scarves, and gloves. They continue to socialize, exercise, and engage with the city. Outdoor skating rinks appear in parks and neighborhoods, and people actually use them. Winter festivals bring music, lights, and gatherings into the cold darkness. There is a sense that surviving winter is a shared experience, almost a rite of passage. Each spring feels earned, as if the city collectively emerges from hibernation. Summer in Montreal is intense and joyful, filled with urgency. The days are long, the nights are warm, and the city feels alive at every hour. Festivals dominate the calendar. Every weekend brings concerts, cultural events, and street celebrations. Parks fill with picnics and barbecues. Bike paths are crowded with cyclists. Terraces overflow with conversation and laughter. Montrealers know their summer is short, and they treat each day as precious. There is a collective understanding that joy must be fully experienced before winter inevitably returns. Fall brings a different rhythm. The trees of Mount Royal and neighborhoods across the city explode into shades of red, orange, and gold. The air becomes crisp. The pace slows slightly. Cafes fill with people reading, working, or simply watching the world pass by. Montreal's café culture is deeply rooted. This is not a city of rushed coffee to go. People sit. They stay. They talk. Cafes serve as informal community centers, places for conversation, reflection, and connection. Food in Montreal is a reflection of its diversity and history. While dishes like poutine and smoked meat are iconic, they are only part of a much larger story. The city's culinary scene is one of the most dynamic in Canada. High-end restaurants like Toque and Joe Beef attract global attention, while small family-run establishments quietly serve extraordinary food. Vietnamese pho, Middle Eastern shawarma, Portuguese chicken, Greek souvlaki, Jewish delis, and countless other traditions coexist, often within a single neighborhood. Food here is not just sustenance, it is heritage. Montreal is also a major center for the performing arts. Complexes like Place des Arts host ballet, opera, symphonies, and theater productions year-round. The Montreal Symphony Orchestra is internationally respected. Smaller venues support experimental and independent productions, pushing artistic boundaries. What makes Montreal's art scene unique is not just talent, but support. Government funding, community engagement, and a cultural respect for creativity allow artists to take risks and explore new ideas. Language is one of Montreal's most defining and debated characteristics. Quebec's language laws exist to protect French, ensuring it remains the dominant language of public life. Businesses operate primarily in French. Signage must prioritize French. Immigrants are generally required to send their children to French-language schools. These laws are controversial, seen by some as essential preservation and by others as restrictive. But their impact is undeniable. French is thriving in Montreal in a way it might not otherwise be. At the same time, Montreal is functionally bilingual. English is everywhere. Most residents switch effortlessly between languages, often within the same sentence. This code switching is normal for locals and disorienting for outsiders. It reflects the city's cultural flexibility and layered identity. While tensions exist, most Montrealers simply want to live, work, and enjoy their city. Language debates may never disappear, but daily life continues in a pragmatic balance. Music has always been central to Montreal's identity. Jazz took root here in the early 20th century, when African American musicians found greater freedom than in the United States. Oscar Peterson, one of the greatest jazz pianists in history, was born here. The International Jazz Festival, held every summer, transforms downtown into a massive open-air concert space. Hundreds of performances, many free, celebrate the city's musical legacy. Beyond jazz, Montreal has produced influential artists across genres. Leonard Cohen's poetic introspection, Arcade Fire's anthemic sound, and Celine Dion's global pop success all emerged from this city. The music scene thrives on a DIY ethic. Small venues, home studios, and grassroots promotion support emerging talent. Montreal supports its artists, and artists shape the city's identity in return. Visual art is everywhere in Montreal. Murals and street art cover entire buildings, transforming neighborhoods into open-air galleries. Festivals like Mural invite artists from around the world to leave their mark. Some pieces are political. Others are playful or abstract. Together, they create a cityscape that feels alive and expressive. Museums like the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts anchor this creativity, while countless small galleries support emerging voices. Education in Montreal reflects its diversity. French and English school systems operate side by side. Universities like McGill, Université de Montréal, and Concordia attract students globally. Schools serving specific cultural communities preserve heritage languages and traditions. This multicultural education shapes generations who grow up exposed to multiple perspectives, languages, and identities. Immigration has shaped Montreal profoundly. The city has long been a destination for those seeking opportunity. Integration is not always easy. Language barriers, credential recognition, and discrimination present challenges. Yet many immigrants find Montreal welcoming, especially compared to other North American cities. Its relative affordability, cultural openness, and strong community networks offer a sense of possibility. Montreal's infrastructure is both a source of pride and frustration. Potholes, construction, and detours are constant topics of complaint. Freeze-thaw cycles damage roads year after year. But the metro system stands as a success story. Clean, efficient, and architecturally unique, it connects the city and reduces reliance on cars. Cycling infrastructure has also expanded dramatically, making Montreal one of North America's most bike-friendly cities. Environmental concerns are increasingly central to Montreal's future. Climate change brings more extreme weather. The city invests in public transit, green spaces, and sustainable development. Urban agriculture, farmers' markets, and farm-to-table initiatives strengthen connections between city and land. Montreal is learning to balance growth with responsibility. Despite its size, Montreal feels like a collection of villages. Neighborhoods maintain strong identities. People know their local shop owners. Community events bring residents together. There is a social cohesion rooted in walkability, density, and shared spaces. Montrealers complain endlessly about their city. The weather, the roads, the politics, but they defend it fiercely. Loyalty runs deep. Montreal has faced countless challenges over nearly 4 centuries. Wars, economic decline, political crises, and social change have tested it repeatedly. Each time, the city adapted. That resilience defines Montreal. It is not perfect. It is not polished. But it is alive, evolving, and confident in its identity. Today, Montreal looks toward the future. The tech sector is booming. Artificial intelligence research attracts global investment. Startups thrive. Film and television productions use the city as a versatile backdrop. Young people move here for affordability, creativity, and opportunity. Montreal proves that innovation does not require conformity. Montreal's story is ongoing. It is written daily by those who live here, work here, and call it home. Indigenous roots, colonial ambition, immigrant dreams, artistic rebellion, and modern innovation coexist in a city that refuses to be simplified. Montreal does not try to be like any other city. It is content being itself, complex, contradictory, and unforgettable.